קרבת השם לי טוב, 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 קרבת השם לי טוב. Start in a second. Yeah. Shalom Bacha. We'll start in a minute or so. Mic check. Thank you very much. Go on the Facebook app and YouTube. Very good. All right, let's get started. I see. Okay, good. And start in 10 seconds or so. K'avat Hashem li tov. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, shiur Torah, bruchim habayim. We are back here on our Tuesday night War of Amalek series that we're continuing. Baruch Hashem, we're continuing the battle. And Be'ezrat Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. Tonight's shiur is going to be for the refuah shlema for Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Talia bat Sarah, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jora, and all of Am Yisrael, and all of the righteous Noahis that continue to support the organization, continue to help us publicize Torah, grow the Torah, grow HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name into every place in the world, Be'ezrat Hashem. So tonight's shiur is going to be something that is certainly going to help quite a few people, more than others, but certainly it's going to be something that's going to answer a lot of questions, especially the suffering that a person has when they're trying to do big things to help Am Yisrael. You would think that usually if you're trying to help Am Yisrael, you're going to have an easy time doing it, but people that have experience with it will tell you otherwise. And Baruch Hashem, we'll find out the answer of why. Before we do that, I just want to remind everyone that we have our High Holidays campaign. This is our biggest and most important campaign of the year, and in fact, for us, it's the most important campaign ever because we're trying to do something bigger than we've ever done before. Baruch Hashem, we've already committed to an enormous amount of money to help the poor people in Eretz Yisrael, help feed over 10,000 poor Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael, and also have 2 Siyum Shas events in Eretz Yisrael, where we're going to have about 1,000 Avrechim learning the entire Talmud Bavli in a single day in 2 different locations, one in Tveria and one in Yerushalayim. We have hundreds of families of widows and orphans that Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to help them for the holidays. And in so many words, there's a lot to do, and to be honest with you, it's I was saying this to myself and saying it to my wife, that at this time of the year, this is the most difficult time of the year for me personally. If it wasn't for the shiurim, I simply would just lose my mind, because there's just so much that you have to do for the campaign, for the behind the scenes, everything that has to happen, what to do with with the money, to help all these different people. You have to hear the stories, you have to deal with all of the major things that have that pretty much put everything to work, and it's a enormous amount of work. It takes away from all Torah studies to the point where, honestly, at this time of the year, I need the shiurim more than you guys do. Because if it wasn't for the shiurim, it would seem like there would be no Torah studying. And if I don't study Torah, I start losing my mind. I literally been feeling that over the last couple of days, that I need more. I need more, and Baruch Hashem, Hashem had mercy on me, and He gave me some more to learn today for the shiur Be'ezrat Hashem. And in fact, it's amazing how the shiur itself, which of course is never planned, is never anything with but Hashem has Rav Elchanan Wasserman write something over 80 years ago, right before the Holocaust, that I'm going to need to learn today, at this time, for this specific time, for what we're dealing with right now. And Baruch Hashem, that there's such level of siyata dishmaya. And that's why I tell people that when you're looking at this campaign, when you're making your annual donations, you have to look at things from a much bigger perspective, and not just try to fulfill a mitzvah just to make yourself feel good. There's look at the bigger options where you have the opportunity to not only donate to help poor people, but there's also a couple of options for larger donors that are willing to commit and sacrifice more for the sake of Am Yisrael, to help more of Am Yisrael's Jews, and you're going to get much bigger blessings. If you just have seen some of the videos we've publicized from some of the past year's donors, which of course are return donors, you'll see amazing things, miracles that have happened to them that are beyond the scope of our imagination, of things that Hashem allowed us to pray for and actually have those prayers heard and fulfilled. So a person that donates to these causes and actually makes the bigger investment is simply going to be investing into assuring themselves that this is going to be the best year of their life. If you've been waiting for a child, if you've been waiting to find somebody to marry, if you've been waiting for a cure for your ailment, if you're waiting for a major advancement in your career and in monetary issues, this is one of the ways that we've seen, Baruch Hashem, countless people get it, and we have over a few dozen people that have taken the time and effort to make videos and write letters to tell you the stories so you can hear it from them. And I highly recommend that people donate to not only to the campaign, but to make an effort to donate to the larger options, because you'll have the opportunity to get yourself a personalized blessing from Rabbi Ephraim, from myself, and also will pray for you the whole holiday. In addition to that, one of the options gives you the ability to have your name inscribed in another addition to the oral Torah. More books are coming out from myself and from Rabbi Ephraim this year, and we'll have your name in one of those books, Be'ezrat Hashem. This is simply putting yourself as a partner in the Torah. These types of things, usually people have separate, campaigns for them. If you want to donate for a book, okay, so this is what you're going to get. You're going to get your name in a book. If you want a prayer, okay, that's one thing. Here you have the ability to use your money to help poor Jewish people, but in addition you get a bonus of the prayer, of the blessings, of the book. It just requires an extra sacrifice. Now, why make that sacrifice? A person has to look at the history of what our organization has done over the years, and you'll see that the answer is very, very simple. No one has done in the last decade what we have done dollar for dollar for Am Yisrael. Nobody. Doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference which rabbi you'll mention, organization you'll mention, dollar for dollar. You'll see that there's an enormous amount of help for Am Yisrael that has come from our organization. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has helped us through thick and thin, and it's difficult is the understatement of the year. It's just but at the same token, it's extremely rewarding to hear a mother that sent me a message yesterday that her 5-year-old kid started wearing tzitzit because he's listening to my shiurim. I mean, this is something that literally makes your heart melt. Little kid, 5-year-old kid, he's about to turn 6. He's starting to wear tzitzit and tell all of his friends to start wearing tzitzit at 5 years old. I mean, things like this are melt your heart, especially when you know what the past of the family was and how they are right now. And it's unbelievable how the Torah that we've been teaching over the years is affecting and helping people's lives. In addition to that, you see extraordinary stories of people that are able to get married because the organization helped them pay for it, or people that are able to, have their lights turned on because the organization helps them pay for it. There's simply a lot that we do and we continue to do, and this is all because we have extraordinary partners like yourself. So Baruch Hashem, there's an opportunity out there to join us and to make the extra sacrifice, and I can assure you that no one out there that is donating, that is making a big sacrifice to help us is going to be let down. There's just simply a lot of blessings, a lot of siyata dishmaya, and I know that because the amount of sacrifice that we're making this year is surpassing any other year before. So if the people that have donated and have made the major sacrifice in past years have gotten such extraordinary open miracles, then needless to say, people that are going to make the major sacrifice this year are going to have it. And that's also what I told one of the people that I spoke to today, that Baruch Hashem, she is a return donor, and she made the largest donation of her life. Why? Because she saw extraordinary miracles, and she has no doubt in her mind that this will continue. And Baruch Hashem, one of the things I told her, remind me of this statement that I'm telling you now, that this is going to be the best year of your life. And this is what I would tell every single person that makes the biggest sacrifice. Why? Because we're doing everything we possibly can to increase the Torah in the world, to glorify Kadosh Baruch Hu's name, and to help His people. It's not to enrich myself, it's not to enrich Rav Ephraim, it's not to enrich anybody. It's simply to glorify Kadosh Baruch Hu's name. When you partner with an organization that is not taking percentages for their houses and for their cars and for their jewelry and for their next door neighbor and for whatever else, an organization that's literally trying to do everything possible to glorify Kadosh Baruch Hu's name, no matter the consequence, no matter the suffering, no matter the agony, but they're doing it, you have blessing there. So this is first announcement. Second announcement is that a promise of a big announcement tomorrow. Tomorrow night we're going to release the biggest technological product we have ever done. In my opinion, one of the biggest technological products that the Jewish world has ever seen. And you'll see it once you use it. And Be'ezrat Hashem will discuss it tomorrow because we want to make sure that we save enough time for the shiur itself. We'll discuss that tomorrow, and it's actually more appropriate once you hear the actual product itself. You'll understand why it's such a huge release, and this is something that's going to help quite a few people, both young and old. So with that being said, we have looked into the headlines after hearing from a couple of people that there was a few things that hit the wire that perhaps need some attention, and we obviously didn't delve into all the details, but I'm sure you guys have heard of the attack on the Hezbollah, the messengers of the Satan, the messengers of the powers of evil, were attacked today, where their pagers, beepers, whatever they have, suddenly exploded. All of the different messengers of the Satan had a surprise explosion in their pockets, in their hands, in their wherever they had this device. And a few of these wonderful things that happen by the hand of Hashem were actually recorded. So you see actually how HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroys the terrorists, destroy the enemies of Am Yisrael without effort, just like that, something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could do. Now, of course, some are saying this is responsibility of the Israeli intelligence, and some are saying this, some are saying that. It doesn't really make a difference. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says himself in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14, Adonai lachem lachem v'atem techarishun. God will fight your war, and you shall remain silent. Meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He does not need big weapons to destroy our enemy. He does not need big weapons in order to bring the enemy to its knees if He wants to protect His kids, especially before the judgment day. He wants us to have our full attention on the judgment day and not on the different little tools that He has in the world in order to help us do tshuva. So Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is fighting our war, and of course the enemy is vowing to revenge, but one question that some people have asked, but I don't think enough have asked, is why didn't Hezbollah attack? I mean, Iran has been threatening to attack for years, needless to say, in the last few months. Hezbollah was literally at the border, on the north. Why didn't they attack already? They have thousands upon thousands of missiles that make the missiles of Hamas look like toys. Why didn't they attack? Now, if I were to tell you that it's only due to the merits of Am Yisrael, especially those that have learned Torah, when we had that Siyum Shas event in one day where you had 800 Torah scholars learn the entire Talmud Bavli, the entire Mishnah, and several other major things. Many women, their wives, came and read the book of Tehillim, the book of Psalms, the entire book in a single day, several times, and kids prayed for you. That event that our organization held, without even having enough time to even do a campaign for, that cost a fortune. This, Rabotai Karim, is what brought protection to Am Yisrael. Now, of course, some people are going to say, come on, you're exaggerating. It's nice that you did it. It's nice that you helped Torah scholars. It's nice, but no, it's because Hezbollah is scared. Oh, it's because, this, because of that. Well, Rabotai Karim, this is part of what the shiur is going to unveil. And in fact, it's also going to unveil why some people even feel that way. Rabbi Yaron Reuven told us that the war of Amalek is not the typical war. The Yonatan ben Uziel comments on Parashat Bamidbar in the sefer Bamidbar in chapter 24, verses 17 through 20, that Amalek will be the one that leads the fight in Gog uMagog to go against Hashem and His Mashiach and His messenger. This is Amalek. Amalek is not a specific nation per se, but rather an ideology. It's anyone that fights against the Torah. And of course, Rabbi Yaron Reuven tells us that if Am Yisrael is in a situation where our lives are at stake, we have to pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But if it's our spirituality at stake, our ability to learn Torah, our ability to do mitzvot is at stake, and someone is threatening us that we're no longer allowed to learn Torah, that we have to worship some type of idol, for that we have to sacrifice our life and be willing to die for it and die for it. Why? If we do not have Torah, we do not have a world. We do not have a nation. We do not have anything. Now, Amalek is the main enemy of the Torah. And Rabbi Yaron Reuven is now going to uncover an extraordinary fact that a person is going to see in this war of Amalek, especially if that person is one of the messengers of Hashem, one of the servants of Hashem, a woman, a man that is a servant of Hashem, and really uncover who is really the real suffering servant, not the fake suffering servant of Christianity in their idolatrous ways, but rather the real suffering servant. In fact, Rabbi Yaron Reuven tells us that if a person wants to be a servant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the greater the suffering, the greater the servant, the greater the suffering they'll have to endure in order for them to succeed. Now, Rabotai Karim, Rav Reuven says as follows: ידוע שבמלחמה כל צד צריך לידע היה נמצא מקור כוחו של הצד שנגדו. אולי יוכל להחלישו שם. It is known that in a war, the strategies of a war, it's important to know where is the source or the key part of the power. Where is the strength of the opposing side? Why? Perhaps you could weaken it. If you're going to go to a war, you'll be a fool if you don't investigate. If you don't investigate before going to war, perhaps the enemy is stronger than you. Perhaps the enemy has weak points. The greatest generals that are noted throughout history were ones that were the best researchers. They would send different types of spies and different types of ways in order to figure out where is the weak part of the enemy. Whether it's weak generals, weak soldiers, weak infantry, weak part of their defense, a specific location. This is how to win a battle. And the same concept goes in the war against Amalek. Rabbi Yaron Reuven says that in the war of Amalek, you have to treat it the same thing as you would treat a real war, and seek the weak side of Amalek. וגם אנחנו צריכים לדע במה כוחו של עמלק גדול ובאיזה אופן אפשר להחלישו. And we too must know where is the great strength of Amalek and in which way we can weaken it. ודבר זה גילתה לנו תורה. And this is one of the things that the Torah unveiled for us, where it said in the book of Exodus, chapter 17, verse 8, ויבוא עמלק וילחם עם ישראל ברפידים. Amalek came and fought against Am Yisrael at the Refidim. What is this Refidim? What is this Refidim? The Mechilta de Rabbi Ishmael in Parashat Beshalach, in Parasha Aleph, in the name of Rabbi Chanina, he says, I asked Rabbi Elazar at the big yeshiva, what is Refidim? And he said, it's a name. It's a name of a place. But why is it called Refidim? The Acherim, meaning he's referring to Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes, taught us that this place was called Refidim in order to hint to us why Amalek was permitted to attack Am Yisrael. It was because of the Rifyon Yadayim of Am Yisrael when it came to Torah. What is Rifyon Yadayim? The laziness, reluctance, or lethargic type of behavior when it came to learning Torah. Meaning, it's not saying that Am Yisrael stopped learning Torah, but rather they were more reluctant to learn. They were lazy. They said, you have a shiur Torah. All right, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Yeah, but it's starting now. Okay, so I'll run a little late. It's okay. I have to finish this invoice right now. I have to finish eating. I have to finish this show, and then I'll come. All right. Oh, come on. Why don't we learn Torah today? Listen, let's learn later. Later comes. Well, I'm tired now. Maybe we'll learn double tomorrow. We'll make it up for it another day. This reluctance to learn Torah, this rifyon, where a person is like lethargic, where they come to learn, like, okay, so what parasha are we on? I don't know. Whatever you say. Well, the book's in front of you. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in the mood. This type of behavior when it comes to the Torah is not only unacceptable. Says the Midrash, this is one of the fuels of power for Amalek himself. And thereby says, Rav Elchanan Wasserman, our sages taught us that here in this verse, where it says that after Amalek came to fight Am Yisrael and the Refidim, is hinting to us that because of this, Amalek was given the power to fight with Israel. What does it mean was given the power? Am Yisrael was enormous. Millions and millions of people. Now, even though they weren't known as huge warriors of battle, but just their massive size, enough to scare anybody away. Even more so, when you hear this massive people destroyed the most powerful country in the world by the hand of God, who made open miracles for them, turning their masters in Egypt into dead people, into miserable people, into people that are full of diseases, who begged them to leave, who drowned all of them after they decided to change their mind, and not only left everything behind, but took the gold, the treasures of Egypt with them. The massive win was known to the whole world. And if that wasn't enough, everyone knew about Mount Sinai. Everyone knew about Yam Suf. Everyone knew about all these extraordinary things. Amalek, on the other hand, wasn't a great nation. It wasn't a huge amount of people where they had, 1 billion people like China or something like that. What world do you live in that you think that you are going to fight this nation that not only is massive in size with millions of people, but on top of that, it just destroyed the most powerful country in the world? What gives you even the idea to think that this is going to actually work out? The idea came when Am Yisrael became reluctant to learn Torah. The strength to fight Am Yisrael came when Am Yisrael was reluctant to learn Torah. That's where the koach came. That's where the strength came. Sherafu yedeh midivrei Torah. When Am Yisrael's hands were reluctant to hold the Torah itself, to learn it, that's when the fuel of Amalek was inserted into the machine. And thereby, the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, in page 63a, teaches us a fundamental lesson for life. Anyone who does not cure themselves from their lackings of Torah, lackings can be not learning at all, lackings can be them slowing down in the Torah, where they're learning, and then they decided to slow down a little bit. They got a little busy with work, they got busy with the campaign, they got busy with the kids, they got busy with all types of things. Anyone who does not cure themselves from their lackings of Torah, they're not going to have the strength to overcome their problems in life. They're not going to have the strength to overcome the problems that are ahead. Why? The Torah is what's going to give you the strength. It's not going to be money. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be anything. It's going to be the Torah. And Torah already warns us, do not become lazy, do not become reluctant, do not become too busy for the Torah. Why? You came to this world for it. You came to this world to learn Torah. And when Am Yisrael slowed down, not only did they start not feeling good, more depressed, more mental issues, more fights at home, more sickness, more, things that happen to people. But not only that, says the Gemara, the trouble was ahead. What was the trouble? Their hater Amalek. Their hater Amalek. And the Mechilta also brings us a verse to see where this came from. In the book of Chronicles 2, in chapter 12, verse number 1, it says, it happened that as Rehovam's kingdom became established and he became strong, he forsook the Torah of Hashem and all Israel with him. Meaning that after Rehovam became a powerful king of Israel, not just powerful with the people of following him and listening to what he says, and rich, and an army, and everything else, but even more than that, he had other countries that were scared of him. Nobody wanted to mess with him. Instead of thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for this glory that he gave him, for this power that he gave him, what does he do? He violates what the Torah says after I feed you and you're satiated, do not forget me. He violates that. He forsakes the Torah. And the very next verse, verse number 2, over there says, it was in King Rehovam's 5th year that Shishak, king of Egypt, ascended against Yerushalayim. because they had betrayed Hashem with 1,200 chariots and 60,000 horsemen and countless people who came with him from Egypt, Lubim, Suklim, and Ethiopians. He captured Judah's fortified cities and he approached up to Yerushalayim. Here we see, says the Midrash, a direct correlation to what the Torah promises. What already happened to us? You were reluctant to learn Torah, and in this case, forsook the Torah, even if you still kept Shabbat, even if you still ate kosher, even if you still went to shul 3 times a day, but you didn't learn Torah anymore. Instead, you had all types of theaters. Instead, you had all types of, things that you wanted to enjoy life. You wanted to enjoy this world. You're not realizing what you're doing to yourself. You're not realizing what you're doing to yourself. You're actually empowering Amalek. In this particular case, Rehoboam, since he was the leader, the people followed him. They also followed in their rifyon, in their reluctance to learn Torah. And that immediately brought tragedy to his door, where all of a sudden the same enemies that were scared to death of him, not only are no longer scared of him, but they decide they need to attack him. And that's what they did. Now, Rabotai, when a person understands this, theoretically, it's nice. But what does it look like when a person lives this? Rav Nisim Yagen Alav Shalom, he lived this. In this kollel, one of the bachurim got sick. Shem Yachayim, he got the disease, got cancer. And of course, all of the Avrechim over there are praying for him to get better, but he died. The same day, they buried him, and everyone went back to, we're looking to go back home, to go back. Rabbi again said, come on, everyone to the kollel, we have a shiur. They just buried one of their Avrechim, somebody they were learning with for years, sitting next to, talking to, having simchas with. They just buried him. We're going to the kollel, we have a shiur right now. So the rabbi must have something special and important to say. Rav Yagin tells the Avrechim, these same people that are learning Torah, that's their vocation. That's what they do. That's what they live for. And he says to them, we just buried one of our Avrechim. After we prayed for him, for months, we cried, for months. We learned, we did everything. But apparently the decree was sealed, and our prayers were rejected. And the reason for that, says Rav Yagen, who was a spitting image of Rav Elchanan Wasserman, the way their appearance and they communicated. Rav Yagen says the reason why is because of our reluctance to learn Torah, our rifyon. Meaning, yes, we learned, yes, we went to shul, yes, we prayed, but we didn't do it as much as we can. We didn't do it as much excitement. We didn't do it enough. Why? Had it been enough, he would be alive with us right now. Had it been enough, he would be alive with us. This type of musar is not for the average people. Rabbi Yagen knew who he was talking to. He lived this, and so did they. And this is something that was imprinted in every one of their neshamot until this day, where a person understands how much power is invested within him in their support of Torah, their learning of Torah. And Thereby Rav Elchanan Wasserman continues, ולמדנו מזה, כי סיבת כוחו ועיזוזו של עמלק הוא כרפיוננו בלימוד התורה. And we learn from this that the power, the strength, and the abilities of Amalek come from our rifyon of the learning of Torah. כל מה שמתגבר אצלנו הרפיון בדברי תורה מתגבר כוחו של עמלק. As the power of our lethargy, reluctance, hesitance, laziness, whatever you want to call it, in the words of the Torah, in the learning of Torah, it's the opposite effect happens to the strength of Amalek. ולהפך, אם נתחזק בלימוד התורה, ייחלש כוחו של עמלק, and therefore the opposite is true too. Where if we get stronger in our learning of Torah, then the strength of Amalek will weaken. Meaning that this is not only to highlight our own weaknesses, but rather our own strength, our own nuclear weapon, our own secret weapon that does not even require a gun. Where if we know that less Torah means stronger Amalek, therefore more Torah means weaker Amalek. עלינו להתאמץ בכל עוז להפיץ לימוד התורה. And therefore it is our responsibility to sacrifice, to make all efforts with all power to publicize more Torah, more learning of Torah. Why is he saying in learning Torah? He should say it's our responsibility to, with all of our strengths, to learn more Torah. But he doesn't say that. He says, with all of your power, with all of your strength, with all of your abilities, to publicize Torah. What does it mean to publicize Torah? Rabotai Karim, the reality is that the vast majority of people that are watching me right now, and in the world today, are not learning enough Torah. They may be only learning my shiur once a week, or even if they watch every shiur that I do. But that's their Torah learning. Perhaps even they learn the shiur, and maybe they'll read a book here and there. Perhaps even if they're learning in a kollel, they learn 8-9 hours a day. But what about the rest of the 24 hours a day? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, V'gita b'yamam v'layla, do you have to learn Torah 24 hours a day? Meaning that the fuel of Torah to strengthen Am Yisrael is required 24 hours a day. Meaning there's not enough that any one particular person can learn in order to help us in these times ahead. And therefore Rav Elchanan Wasserman says tool number one in order to weaken Amalek is to publicize Torah, meaning support more people learning Torah, support the kollel, support kiruv, so more people do tshuva and therefore they'll end up learning Torah. Now, your Torah is great, your few hours a day, your 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, but it's not enough. It's not enough. You have to make up for the rest of the 24 hours of the day. And not just for your 24 hours, for your wife's 24 hours, your husband's 24 hours, your kids' 24 hours, your siblings' 24, everybody, you have to compensate for all of it. What do? You have to sacrifice everything you possibly can so that more people learn Torah. That means help the Avrechim that are learning, learn with comfort and not being worried that they don't have food to eat. That means help publicize more Torah so more people are doing tshuva and therefore they end up doing mitzvot, learning Torah themselves. One of them could be the next Gdol Ador. Several of them can be. We need the next generation of Gdolim. Where do you think they're going to come from? So therefore, Rav Elchanan says, if you're serious about the war of Amalek, and you want to be on the winning side, then you have to turn yourself into a messenger of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, into a servant of Hashem. How? Don't rely just on your own learning. Rather, support learning of Torah, support Kiruv, support what we're doing every single day, where there's free shiurim, free books, events for Torah scholars, the kollels that we have, helping the Torah get greater and more glorified. Because that is our number one defense. ללמוד לעצמו ולגדל בניו לתלמוד תורה ולהחזיק בידי האחרים הלומדים. And if someone did not understand and perhaps thought that maybe I'm the one that's interpreting it that way, Rav Wasserman interprets it himself. He must learn himself, and he has to also raise his kids to be Torah scholars, to learn Torah, and he also has to support others that are learning Torah, meaning support Kiruv, support the Kollel, support more people learning Torah. Instead of using that money to extend your house, instead of using that money for a plastic surgery you don't really need, instead of using that money to buy another watch when you can really tell the time already by simply looking at your phone or your existing watch, instead of getting a fancier car that's going to cost you an extra few $100s that you don't really need to spend, use those resources, that blessing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you, to publicize more Torah in the world. And as a side note, one of the things that I've told people in the past when they tell me about their idea to start something. Oh, Rabbi, I'm thinking of maybe starting my own Kiruv organization. Oh, Rabbi, I'm thinking of starting my own kollel. Oh, Rabbi, I'm thinking of starting my own chesed. I always tell them, Chazak u'Baruch. B'ezrat Hashem Yad Bracha. What do you think about it? What I think about it? I don't know. I think that you would be better off focusing on what you're good at, which is whatever your job is. Obviously, your job is good enough for you to make money in. So enough that you have extra that you're going to do this Torah organization. And I think that you should focus on what you're good at, which is continue making money, more and more money, and instead take that extra money and extra effort and invest it into what we're doing, because we're already good at it. And this is all we do. I don't have a side gig, like a consulting business or a hedge fund business or something else. This is all I do 24 hours a day. And if that's not enough, you look at the results. If you take your 10, 20, 30, 50, $100,000, maybe you'll be able to open and fund the kollel for a few months, a year, let's say. We have, Baruch Hashem, 2 kollels right now. We have 14,000 shiurim. We have multiple Avrechim that are learning Torah day and night, giving shiurim, doing kiruv. We have a ton of books that we give for free, all types of stuff. Like, if you're an investor in Torah, you have to invest in where the money is going to work the most. The best bet for your money, you're thinking, oh yeah, maybe if I invest in my kollel. Well, in reality, it'll be limited. Why? Because you're limited with time, you're limited with resources. But if you add it to something that's already working, you're just giving more fuel to the machine that's already doing well. And the same concept with chesed, the same concept with anything else. But, unfortunately, sometimes people don't listen and they insist that they're going to do it on their own. I tell them, listen, have bracha, I wish you well. And more times than not, they come back later on, 6 months or a year or 2 years later, and if I ask them about how they're doing and hopefully there's good news, oh no, I stopped. Why not? Well, we had money to start it, but we didn't raise enough money after that, so we stopped. So what does that mean? It went to waste. It went to waste. The resources were, exhausted, and it went to waste. So chaval wasting. Chaval trying to be a hero in everything. Do what you're good at, and let somebody else that's good at something else do that. Being an investor is not such a bad thing. Sometimes being an investor is the best thing in the world. But this sometimes also comes from us People thinking that they can do more than what they can. Sometimes it's a little bit of arrogance. Sometimes it's a little bit, the need to be independent. All types of things that people have. When it comes to the Torah, a person always has to think about, what is the purpose behind what I'm doing? Am I trying to glorify my own name, or am I trying to glorify God's name? If you're trying to glorify God's name, you're trying to glorify the Torah, you're trying to get more people to learn Torah and fight Amalek, then certainly you have to be conscious of the fact that you doing things on your own is more times than not going to not yield you success as much as it would already doing something with someone that's already succeeding. Furthermore, Rav Wasserman says, after a person understands that they have to learn Torah themselves, raise their kids to learn Torah, and also support Torah, they'll know that this is the arrows of death to Amalek. These are the arrows of death to Amalek. So it seems like, oh, we won. Not even close. Why? Since this is the arrows of death to Amalek, Amalek fights back. Amalek fights back. ואף שהדבר הזה אינו מורגש לעיני בשר, אבל לא אין לנו חושים להשיג בם דברים רוחניים ומדעת עצמנו לא נדע בזה מאומה. Here Rav Elchanan is uncovering something that happens. How do you know if you're winning the war? In fact, how do you know if the Satan is scared of you? How do you know if the kiruv that you're doing, the Torah that you're publicizing, how do you know if the Satan is bothered by it? Because if the Satan doesn't care about what you're doing, if you're not really helping anybody, if you're not really causing God's name to be glorified, he won't get in your way. On the other hand, if you're doing bad things, he'll even help you, which we'll see an example of that, extreme example, that's in the Tanakh, that just came as a new chidush to us from Rabbi Ephraim, and he himself just learned this, literally. Now, something out of this world, of how much effort the Satan will do in order to fight this war. But before we get to that, if a person is donating for kiruv, is doing whatever they're doing to publicize Hashem's name, how do you know if it's working? How do you know if it's working? You know if it's working if the Satan cares, if he's fighting you back. How do you know if he's fighting you back? You see, Rabotai, one of the things that when you first get started in doing kiruv and helping people learn Torah and helping Hashem's name be glorified, that you don't expect is that all of a sudden you'll run into all types of obstacles. All of a sudden you'll have obstacles that don't even make any sense. You're trying to do something good, and all of a sudden, all types of things fail. Simple things. All of a sudden, it's like, it works for everyone else. It works everywhere else. But for you, this little thing doesn't work. All of a sudden, things happen that get in the way, that slow down the operation. Things that are as simple as can be are as if they're a lost treasure to you. Gone. All of a sudden, you have all these obstacles. And you don't know what, you're like, I don't understand. This should work. Why isn't Hashem helping me here? What's going on? Why is the Yetzer Hara getting allowed to get in the way? I'm doing good. I'm publicizing God's name. At first, a person is naive enough to think that if they do good, to fight against the Satan, then that means that the fight's going to be smooth. That's the naive part in us. The truth is, though, when you fight somebody, unless they're a wall, they'll fight back. They'll fight back. And that's what the Satan does. Even more so when it comes to fighting him with this arrows of death called the Torah and glorifying the Torah. Glorifying Kadosh Baruch Hu's name. when you fight him with that weapon, he fights much harder. And therefore, when the Satan fights back, he also has special weapons. You see, the Satan knows that he can get you to do things if you're not in the way of Torah. He can get you to go make sins. He can get you to go to places that will distract you from learning Torah. But if you're learning Torah, if you're publicizing Torah, if you're supporting Torah, now that tool is not available to him. So how does he fight someone that all they do and all they care about is publicizing God's name and publicizing the Holy Torah and getting more Jewish people, more people in the world to learn Torah? The options of making you go to places you're forbidden to and all it's not available. It's not even in the realm of choices. Especially when you're using the most powerful weapon that the Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin, page 30, says that if the despicable one comes to you, meaning the Satan comes to you with some type of crazy desire, drag him to the Bet Midrash to go learn Torah. Because if that Satan, if that Yetzirah is as strong as a rock, he'll crumble to nothing from that Torah. And if he's as strong as metal, he'll melt into nothing. Why? Because the Torah is the arrows of death to the Satan. But yet at the same token we see that the more you publicize Torah, the more suffering you have to endure until you get to the goal. And even when you get to the goal, sometimes there's no time to celebrate because you're licking your wounds and trying to prepare for the next war. Why? Because Satan also has a secret weapon. And what's that weapon? Chachamim explained to us, the Satan fights back. The Torah scholar and those that support the Torah by simply tormenting them in every way possible, psychologically, to eliminate their joy of the mitzvah, where they're not going to see the fruits of their labor as obvious as, let's say, a hedge fund manager sees at the end of the year. He sees that his fund went up 20% or 15% or 10%. That's the fruit of his labor. Now he can collect his fee. Great. The guy that works for a lawyer, he wins the case. He sees that's the fruit of his labor. He fought this case for 5 years. Now he won the case. Now he gets a big fee. He's happy. The doctor cured somebody or the surgery worked out. Different people get to enjoy the fruits of their labor. The one that publicizes the Torah, the greater the publicity of Torah, not only will you not have joy from it, but rather you'll have suffering along the way. Eventually you'll have joy, lots of joy, even in this world. But along the way, enormous amount of suffering. Why? Because the Satan says, you're shooting at me these arrows that only few people are aware of. You're publicizing Torah. I'm going to declare war directly against you. How? I'm going to torture you. I'm going to give you all types of problems. The computer's not going to work, even though it's brand new. The secretary is going to be sick for 3 weeks in a row. No one's going to answer the calls. You're going to have to be the secretary too. And by the way, there's no janitor there either. You'll be the janitor also. Oh, and by the way, the kids at home, they don't feel well. You'll have to be the doctor also. And you'll have to be the taxi driver to take them to the doctor. And also the teeth. And also the this. And also the that. And all types of issues are in your way. Like, okay, Bono Shalom, Hashem, help me. I don't know. I can't handle all of this. And finally you get the time to go and press enter, to publicize a shiur, to publicize a campaign, to help the kollel. And as soon as you press the button, you get a notice from somebody that something happened on the way, and there's all types of issues, and it's like, you can't even enjoy the fact that you finally got to the finish line. And Satan says, that's what I'm going to do to you. Why? I'm going to cause you so much problems while you're publicizing God's name and shooting these arrows at me and killing me. Why? Because the mentality of the Satan is that Listen, you're killing me, I'm taking you with me. What does it mean I'm taking you with me? I'm going to do everything possible to get you to not do it again. So, you had an event, 1,000 Avrechim learned Torah. It cost 50, 60, 70% more than you expected. All types of different things happened along the way. You weren't so happy about all those things, right? So perhaps you're not going to do it again. Perhaps you're not going to do it again next year or next month. Why? Because it didn't turn out as good. It was so difficult. It was so there, sleepless nights, all types of phone calls, all types of emails, all types of headaches. It wasn't fun. So you're dealing with so many issues. You're like, oh man, I'm not doing this again. I'm not doing this again. No more campaigns. No more this. You know what? I don't have time for this. Just leave me alone. Give me a cave. Let me go learn Torah. Ribono shel olam. I can't. So that's, got you. That's it. Okay, he won the battle, but I'm winning the war. Why? He's not coming back. He's not coming back. Or better yet, if the Satan really dislikes you, because it's really effective what you're doing, then what does he do to you? He starts giving you all these ideas of, how do you know this stuff is working? Listen, so you did this whole Siyum Shas, and you did this, and the event, and all, but how do you know it's working? He's not going to allow you to see that what you did impacted the world and protected Am Yisrael in their time of danger. He's not going to allow you to see the reality. And that's what Rav Elchanan Wasserman is saying. You're going to look for different things. What am I getting out of all of this? And since you do not have spiritual eyes, you have eyes of flesh and blood, you're not going to be able to see all of the spiritual impact you had, that what you've done, that because you donated 10,000, 15,000, 50,000, 100,000, and that ended up causing many more Jewish people to come to the world, to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and now they have tzitzita, now they keep Shabbat, now some of them are Avrechim, now some of them are Baalei Chesed, now these people are raising families. He's not going to let you see all of that. What he's going to let you see? The problems, the difficulty. He's not going to let you see the fact that what you did actually saved tens of thousands of Jews of the next massacre of October 7th. What you did saved tens of thousands of Jews of going to Gehenom forever. What you did helped tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Jews from losing this world and the next. He's not going to let you see it because you have only flesh and blood eyes. In fact, you're going to look and say, I don't know, should I do this again? And if he hates you, like with a special level of hate, the third level of hate, and you fall for his trap, chas v'shalom, he's going to convince you that it was a mistake. You shouldn't have donated all that money to the campaign. You could have used that 20, 30,000 to remodel your home. Look, the ceiling in your kitchen is leaking a little bit. You could have used that 30,000, 40,000 to have a whole new kitchen and certainly fix the ceiling leak. You could have used that 30, 40,000, 100,000 to expand your business, make more money. Maybe you could donate more next time. You could have used this money to perhaps maybe do this and maybe do that. You made a mistake. Don't do it again. So instead of coming back and investing more into the Torah, what does the person do? He says, no. I made a mistake once, I'm not going to do it again. And at that moment, says the Rambam, you have just made the mistake of your life. What? Not only did you make a regret, and it doesn't look good, but you just lost all of the merits for the good you already did. Whatever merit you had in your account, for helping tens of thousands of people do tshuva, for helping tens of thousands of people get protection from Amalek, do another October 7th, you just lost that. Why? The Satan convinced you to regret what you've done. For most people, he's not going to get them to regret so easily, but he's certainly going to succeed much more frequently with torturing them and getting them to slow down and not do as much. Look, last time you did it, you had so many headaches with the campaign, with donation. You didn't have money. You had to pay for it over a period of time. It was such a headache. Don't do it again. Don't do it again. And the person says, okay, you know what? Yeah. Maybe I'll just do. I'm not going to sacrifice as much this year. Let me focus on something else. Satan won. Satan won. Now there's less Torah. Now the person doesn't realize, because of their eyes of flesh and blood, they don't realize the impact that they have. Now, instead of the entire north of Israel being protected, the entire south of Israel protected, your community being protected. Wherever that community is, it could be in Australia, it could be in America, it could be wherever it is. Now, that protection is less. And chas v'shalom may be even gone. Now all of a sudden you discover that there's problems in the business. All of a sudden the IRS wants to become your best friend. Now all of a sudden your partner in business doesn't want to be a partner anymore. Instead he wants to sue you. Now all of a sudden you're seeing there's trouble in the school. Now all of a sudden the kids don't want to learn as much. And you're thinking, no, it's bad times, it's a bad luck, it's bad this, it's bad that. No. You had a certain level of divine assistance while you were fighting Amalek. You stopped, divine assistance stopped. Divine assistance stopped. And therefore, says Rav Wasserman, know this. It is accepted upon our hands as our tradition that all of this is in our Torah. Where every person that's part of Am Yisrael, who learns Torah, who supports the Torah, weakens in a known significance the power of Amalek. And thereby has a part in the mitzvah of destroying Amalek. When a person learns Torah and supports Torah, they may learn because they're interested. They may learn because they want to know how to do mitzvot. They may learn because they want to become more educated. They're donating because they want to support and help and be kind to poor people. They want to help more people learn Torah. They're doing it for all the right reasons. Great. Rav Elchanan Wasserman says, no. When you're doing all of that, when you're publicizing Torah, when you're learning Torah, when you're supporting Torah, you're also fulfilling the mitzvah of destroying Amalek. Because your Torah support weakens Amalek. Ve'en elu divrei drosh. And these are not things that can be interpreted in any other way. Meaning, this is the reality. This is not Rav Wasserman's understanding of it, and he is working the words and the verses to... No. This is it. There is no other way to interpret things. כי צריכין אנו להאמין בפירושי רז"ל ולמקורות, because we have to believe in the commentaries of our sages and the sources. Because this is what our Torah sources are telling us. That when we support the Torah, when we learn Torah, it's not just for our own, but it's for all of Am Yisrael, because we are all obligated to each other. All of Am Yisrael are obligated to support each other. And the way to fight Amalek is to support more Torah. And the Satan fights back the bigger supporters by turning them into the suffering servants. Why? Because although you won the battle, he wants to win the war. So he wants to convince you that perhaps your efforts are to no avail. Perhaps your efforts shouldn't be repeated because it was too difficult. It was too expensive. It was too this and it was too that. And if he really gets you, he'll even get you to, chas v'shalom, regret the good that you did. And these are the words that are written, mamash, and that's what the Ramban comments on the Torah, that these are the ways that we understand the verses and what they're hinting to us. Now, Rabotai Yekarim, when a person is fighting Amalek, they have to know what they're dealing with and how vicious Amalek is. But they won't understand Amalek if they just learn on the obvious sides of Amalek, such as the wars of Amalek against Am Yisrael. They went, they fought, they killed the weak people, they maimed their different parts of their body, especially the Brit Milah, threw it in the air in order to mock the mitzvah of Brit Milah. Horrible, vicious, no different than Hamas. But really, one of the ways that you could understand what you're dealing with here is when you look at the story of what happened with Doeg HaEdomi. The Sefer Shmuel, chapter 21, verse 8, in Shmuel Aleph. Has a situation where David Amalek is running away from Shaul, because Shaul Amalek, even though he was a tzaddik, was under the understanding, he had a ruach shtut, he had a understanding that David is an enemy, and he was trying to kill him. And David, who knew that Shaul was really a tzaddik, that's being misled, that's being mistaken, was not looking to fight back. King David was simply looking to save his own life. And he ran away. And because he was running, he didn't have time to get a suitcase, food, money, all these different things. And he ran to Nov. Nov was the city of Kohanim. All the tzaddikim were there, all the Kohanim. And when David Amalek got there, he was starving to the point where he was nearly dying. And when he got there, Achimelech told him, listen, the only thing available for you to eat right now is the lechem apanim, which, because it's pikuach nefesh, you're allowed to eat it. And he gave him food. But now, David Amalek knows that Shaul is not going to stop. He has to keep running and he has to protect himself. He needs a weapon. He needs a weapon. And the Torah says, in Sefer Shmuel chapter 21, verse number 8, now there on that day was one of Shaul's servants who lingered before Hashem. His name was Doeg the Edomite. He was the chief of Shaul's shepherds. Shaul, the king, had many servants. But here it's saying this servant was a servant before Hashem, meaning he had a religious position. What was his religious position? He was the chief of Shaul's shepherds, meaning he was the head of the Sanhedrin, the Gdol Ador. Who was he? Doeg HaEdomi. He was called Doeg HaEdomi because he lived in the border of Edom. So they call him Doeg HaEdomi. But he was the chief of Shaul's shepherds, meaning he was the head of he was the Av Bedin, he was the top of the ladder of the sages, of the rabbis, if you will. But he was a Rasha. How do we know he's a Rasha? We see the end. Doeg, what was Doeg doing over there? Doeg came to the city of Nov with some of his people to bring sacrifices. To bring sacrifices to Hashem. And after they finished making the sacrifices, Doeg said, you know what? You guys go. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay back here, so I'll bring some more sacrifices on my own. I want to serve Hashem even more. And I want to learn Torah in peace. With all the distractions that I usually have back home, so I'll stay here for an extra few days. Now he was in such a high position that Achimelech, the one that's the head of the city of Kohanim, he feels perfectly comfortable saying whatever he wants to say next to him. Now, he didn't know that David was running away from Shaul. David didn't tell him. David told him that he was actually on a mission for Shaul, to protect his life. So when Achimelech was talking to David, and Doeg was there, Achimelech didn't have to say any secrets. He spoke to him openly. And he gave him food. And it looked like everything was fine. But Sefer Shmuel says, David then said to Achimelech, perhaps you have under your hand a spear or a sword, for I did not take my sword and my weapons with me, since the king's mission was urgent. And the Kohen says, the sword of Goliath, whom you slew in the Terebinth valley, is wrapped up in a cloth behind the ephod. If you want to take it, for there is none other here except for it. And David says, there is none like it. Give it to me. What's happening here? David knows he needs a weapon, but he can't tell him, listen, I'm fighting Shaul, maybe a soldier's going to come, I got to fight. No. He's telling him, I need a weapon for the sake of Shaul, because we're all servants of the king. So he says, listen, the mission of Shaul was so important, I didn't have time to take my weapons. I had to go do what I had to do. But I need a weapon. The Kohen says to him, listen, we're Kohanim, there's no war here. There's all tzaddikim, we're learning Torah, we're bringing sacrifice to Hashem. There's no warriors here. We don't have any battalion here. There's no place of weapons. Only thing we have is this memorabilia. And it happens to be that this memorabilia is the sword that you used to kill Goliath. We kept it next to the ephod because it was an open miracle in front of everyone. You saved Am Yisrael with that. So we kept it in a holy place. We kept it next to holy things, to commemorate the miracle. But since you need a weapon, and you're the messenger of the king, then go ahead. There's a weapon for you. And David says, yeah, okay, it's a good sword. Yeah, that's the best one. Yeah, give me that one. One that an open miracle happened with. Happens to be my miracle, my sword, perfect. Now, of course, after this happens and David goes away, Doeg Arasha, Doeg Adomi, the head of the Sanhedrin, goes back to Shaul and says, Your Highness, you're never going to believe it. Your enemy, which Doeg hated David, your enemy David, just joined forces with the Kohanim from the city of Nov. All of these Kohanim, these so-called tzaddikim, no, they're not tzaddikim. They're against you. They're with David. They gave him food to save his life, and they even gave him a weapon. When Shaul heard this, he was furious. And in chapter 22, verse 17, it tells what Shaul said. And the king then said to the footmen who stood about him, surround and kill the Kohanim of Hashem, because their hand is also with David, and because they knew that he was fleeing and did not inform me. But the servants of the king were not willing to send forth their hand to slay the Kohanim of Hashem. So here, Shaul is under the belief that the Kohanim knew that David was against him, that he was trying to kill him, and they went against him. That's what Doeg told him. Doeg lied. Doeg is a Rasha. So he said, they went against you, they joined David. So Shaul thought that they're also committing treason. They're also going against him. So go kill them. They're not really tzaddikim. But when the servants, including Avner, the general, when they heard, you want us to kill an entire city of Kohanim? Listen, Your Highness, get somebody else to do it. I can't. I mean, these are the tzaddikim of the generation. How do you want me to go kill Aaron a Kohen, Aaron a Kohen, Aaron a Kohen, Aaron a Kohen? How do you want me to kill all these people? How? When the king saw that nobody was doing what he said, so the king said to Doeg, you circle around and slay the Kohanim. Doeg the Edomite circled around and he killed the Kohanim. And on that day he killed 85 men, wearers of linen robes. And Nov, the city of Kohanim, he killed by the blade of the sword, men and women alike, child and suckling alike, ox and donkey and sheep. Doeg, in an instant, went from being a rabbi, went from being the head of the Sanhedrin. There is no bigger rabbi, to a mass murderer, where not only he killed the Kohanim, he killed their wives, he killed their kids, he killed their babies, he killed their animals. Massive psychopath, murdered everybody. No one can defend themselves. There's no swords in the whole city. He's killing everybody. He killed everybody. Everyone's annihilated. Now, of course, this was a mistake on Shaul's behalf, and even David gets punished for it. Later on, the Gemara talks about it, which we'll talk about at a different time. But the question still is, how did this happen? How does somebody that's learning Torah to such capacity that they elevated themselves to become the Gdolado, the top of the top Dayanim, head of the Sanhedrin, turns around and just like that becomes a mass murderer of children, of women, of holy people? How does such a thing happen? For years, this was something that was not known to me. This was not even something that made sense, but there are certain things in the Torah they don't have to necessarily make sense to you. This is what happened. You say, oh, it's the Satan influenced him. He was jealous. But still, the more you think about what happened here, the more you question, okay, I can understand he hated David HaMelech. Fine. I can understand he wanted to kiss up to Shaul because he thought that he's really going to become the king. After everyone is going to see that Shaul killed the Kohanim, they're going to want to replace him, perhaps they're going to put him in there, maybe they're going to put Achitophel. He was trying to elevate himself. Fine, all of those things you can conjure up in your mind, but still, how do you bring yourself to become so vicious from rabbi that learns Torah, that brings sacrifices, that stayed behind to learn more Torah and bring more sacrifices, to mass murderer? How? Now, of course, the sages in the Gemara say, yeah, but in reality, he was saying Lashon Hara, he was making other sins, so the Torah that he was learning was Torah for the Sitra Achra, was for the evil side. Right, it's all 100% correct, but still, the human element of it is missing. How do you become so vicious? Now, you could see, when we did the film Tikkun Abrit, part of the film we discussed and showed interviews of serial murderers, Ted Bundy and the rest of these Reshaim that the world was punished with by having such people. And part of making the film was actually, the research was to look into these types of people. We watched a lot of interviews. There's a lot of suffering involved in watching these crazy people murderers and how they think. And the one common denominator they all had, they were all addicted to pornography, and they were all sick people morally. They were disgusting people. But you see how everyone was born a baby. Everyone was cute as a baby. And everyone, little by little, desensitized themselves, little by little, became more and more vicious to the point where it became a monster. Meaning it didn't happen overnight. He didn't go from being a mailman to being a mass murderer just because he was upset. This is something that they literally poisoned their mind with the pornography and all the other filth for so many years, and little by little they acted on it, and they got worse and worse over time. And this is one common denominator among all serial killers, all murderers, all of these people that you see are doing the shootings, every single one of them, with no exception. You'll see that. It's not commonly discussed, but it's one thing that we saw is a common denominator among all of them, because it's one of the things that poisons the mind. It also desensitizes a person to the value of people, to the value of things. It's a horrible thing. But anyway, here, Doega Anomi goes from being someone that learns Torah, someone that teaches Torah, someone that is still in his 30s and can give you hundreds of chidushim on every part of the Torah. Unbelievable amount. And he's at the top position. He's successful at the top of the echelon of where he can be. Just like that, he becomes a murderer of everything that moves. To uncover this, Rabotai Karim, we have to go into the secret treasures of the Midrash Tanchuma. In Parashat Ki Titzeh, the same parashat that also talks about the destruction of Amalek, of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you not only have to destroy Amalek, but you also have to remember what he did to you. What does it mean? Remember, we'll discuss in a moment, but this Parashat Ki Titzeh has a treasure in it. Has many treasures. But inside this treasure, we found a treasure that was unknown to us that even exists. You know how there's people that spend their life looking for a treasure. They're looking for a treasure, but usually they know what they're looking for because somebody else has spoken about it. Somebody else has drawn it, has seen it. They have an idea of what they're looking for. The greatest treasure of all is if you find something you couldn't even imagine in your best dreams. And here the Midrash Tanchuma says, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, he swears. This is the teachings of Rabbi Eli. Yemini yemini kisi kisi, im yavou גויים להיות גרים מכל אומות העולם, אני מקבלן, וזרעו של עמלק איני מקבל לעולם. Says, my throne, meaning he's talking to his majesty, his legions, his servants. Know this, if the Gentiles come, in all the generations, to convert and become Jews from any one of the nations, I'll accept them. Except if they're coming from Amalek. I will never accept the converts of Amalek. Here HaKadosh Baruch Hu expresses his desire, if you will, to destroy Amalek from the world. As Amalek, his primary ideology is don't be afraid of God. Don't be afraid of God. That's the ideology of Amalek. No fear of heaven. That's what it says in the Torah, that Amalek was not scared of Hashem and attacked Am Yisrael. And after they attacked Am Yisrael, the other nations felt comfortable to attack Am Yisrael. Because even though Amalek lost, They saw that you're allowed to attack them. You're able to attack them. Why do they do this? Because they hate God so much, they don't want to be afraid of Him. And anyone that teaches, don't be afraid of God, they're teaching the words of Amalek. They themselves may not be Amalek, but they're teaching the words of Amalek. Perhaps they should pick a different subject. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'll accept converts from any of the nations throughout the generations except Amalek. Af David Asaken. Rabbi Eli says, in the name of God, this is what David, look what David did. Shelo kibel ger Amalek, who did not accept a convert from Amalek. Meaning, somebody that was Amalek converted to Judaism. Not that he came to David and said, listen, I'm from Amalek, but I'm a nice guy, so can you convert me? No! Someone converted already. And David said, no. We don't accept your convert. Psak alacha, you're not a convert. When did this happen? Says in Sefer Shmuel, there's a story of after Shaul goes to war, and he realizes that he's losing the war, and if the enemy captures him, they'll torture him, and they'll do all types of things that will desecrate the Torah, perhaps get other people to worship idols. Hashem's name could be desecrated. So he says, I must die and not get caught. And he looks for anybody. You kill me. Take a sword, kill me. Nobody wanted to kill Shaul HaMelech. He's tzaddik. But then this young guy comes, said, okay, I'll kill you. And he kills Shaul. He kills Shaul. Why? He wanted me to kill him. I'm doing a mitzvah. No. And then this young guy runs to David. He tells people Shaul is dead. And he gets to David, thinking that David will celebrate that Shaul is dead. Shaul is technically his enemy. He's been trying to kill him for years. He comes to David and he says to him, Shaul is dead. Halitai. I killed him. ויאמר דוד אל הנער המגיד לו, מי זה אתה? ויאמר בן איש גר עמלקי אנוכי. He says, where are you from? He says to him, who are you? He says, I am the son of a Amalek that converted. David HaMelech says to him, you're a son of Amalek that converted? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, who is this guy? Who is this guy, this kid? Beno shel doeg ha'adomi. This kid that killed Shaul was the son of Doeg, meaning that this son just uncovered the family secret. His father Doeg, he somehow fooled and convinced the Bet Din to convert him, even though he's Amalek. And now, he grew in Torah so much so that he became a Dayan. He became the part of the Sanhedrin, eventually became the top of the Sanhedrin. All the while, he's really Amalek. And his son is going, he's learning yeshiva, he's good. He says, yeah, my father, he's a convert. Came from Amalek, the nation of Amalek. Vayomer David. David says to him, איך לא יראת לשלוח ידיך לשחט את משיח השם? How did you not fear to kill the messenger of Hashem, meaning you killed Shaul. How? ויקרא דוד לאחד הנערים ויאמר גש פגע בו ויכהו וימות. ויאמר אליו דוד דמך על ראשך כי פיך ענה בך לאמור אנוכי מתתי את משיח השם. David HaMelech says, you were not scared to kill Shaul, the tzaddik. He calls one of his soldiers, take the sword out and kill this kid. Kill this guy. And the guy takes out the sword and kills the son of Doeg. And David says, your blood is on your head. Why? Because you killed the messenger of Hashem. And the Midrash says, usually somebody says they killed somebody, you don't kill him. You need two witnesses. But here, David uncovers an extraordinary detail. David says, you came from Amalek, you can't convert. There's no converting Amalek. That means that your father Doeg, he may have fooled the Bedin, but he didn't fool the Bedin of Shamayim. Hashem does not accept him. He is still a goy, even though he was the head of the Sanhedrin. He's a goy. He's not part of Am Yisrael. And we saw that through his actions of how vicious he was, because where's the viciousness comes from? One of the traits of Am Yisrael is to be merciful. How is he killing so many Kohanim, so many tzaddikim? Now we know that viciousness comes from Amalek, and therefore he's not Jewish, and neither is the son. And when it comes to that, when it comes to judging the wicked among the Gentiles, you don't need the same laws as the Jewish people as far as two witnesses. And therefore David HaMelech was following the Noahide law. You yourself admitted you killed another Jew, death penalty. So here we see that David HaMelech, that the Gemara says, Alacha is like David all the time. What David HaMelech said was always Alacha. Not because he was the king, but because he was such a Talmid Chacham. David HaMelech paskined that since the father was Amalek, his conversion was null and void. Doeg was Amalek. He was not a Jew. And therefore he had to be judged as a Noahide. Therefore there was a death penalty for a son that killed Shaul. Now, what do we learn aside from this extraordinary chidush? What do we learn about our subject at hand with the war against Amalek, where the more you do to publicize HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah, the more you support the Torah, the more the Satan is going to fight against you to weaken you and get you to regret doing it, get you to not do it again. You see something surreal. Because the Satan knows that Amalek is his primary weapon in the war of Gog and Magog. He's the one that's going to fight against the Mashiach. He's the one that's going to be fighting against Am Yisrael. He's the one that's the chief enemy. And he also has this viciousness within him that's unlike any other people, unlike any other species. But the one thing that can destroy him is the Torah. The more Torah, the weaker Amalek is. So what does the Satan do? His special weapon is to weaken the Torah. And here, he got someone within the world of the Torah to make a mistake and allow this Amalek to convert. Allow Doeg to convert. After he converted, the Satan helped him learn Torah to a point where he became very knowledgeable. much more knowledgeable than the word knowledgeable can define. So much so that it was recognized by everyone that this guy, even though he's a convert, even though he wasn't, raised in a yeshiva system, in a frum neighborhood, this guy is a genius. We got to make him a dayan. We got to make him part of the Sanhedrin. And before you know it, even though he's still young, in his 30s, he becomes the head of the Sanhedrin. Why does the Satan want this Amalek as the head of the Sanhedrin? Because the Satan knows that one day I can use this evil enemy to do my will. When? When David Amalek goes to the city of Nov, goes to the place where there's the tzaddikim, the real holy people. Doeg is sitting over there, and he's jealous of David because David is always alachais like him. Because even though Doeg is a genius, when it comes to what he said and Paskin versus what David Amalek said, everyone always listened to David. Even before David became king, everyone always listened to David. He was jealous of David. Satan says, now I'm going to take all that viciousness that Doeg has within him, that Amalek in him, now I'm going to turn it all on. He sees David Amalek go to the city of Tzadikim, the city of Nov, where the Kohanim are there. He goes and he spreads false rumors and Lashon Hara about the city, about the Tzadikim, about David Amalek. And if that wasn't enough, after Shaul decreed to kill all of them, and nobody wants to listen to him, the Satan empowers Doeg to go and turn himself into the mass murderer Amalek that he really is, just like that. And he goes and he kills with viciousness beyond human comprehension. In a single day, literally the entire city is killed. Because all of the Torah that he was learning was coming from the chitzonim, was coming from the evil, the sitra achra side. It was simply in order to serve an agenda. The Satan invested decades to build this Amalek just to hurt and weaken the world of the Torah. But what about the good side? See this. Akadosh Baruch Hu paskind already, he's never accepting Amalek. But apparently, this was not known to everyone. So this Doeg, snuck in the system. He snuck in. He snuck into the system. Hashem says, we have to wipe him out of the world. How? After he does what he does, and he falls, and he's no longer following the Torah, it's known that he's what he is. Still, you need a reason, an halachic permission to kill him, an halachic permission to destroy his seed. And therefore, Hashem makes sure that it's his son that kills Shaul, and goes to David Amalek and tells him not only that he killed Shaul, but answers the question of who are you and where are you from with details that were not necessary. He could have simply said his name. He could have simply said his name and he is what the name of his father is. But rather he said, I am the son of the convert that came from Amalek. And David Amalek, since he's the ultimate Torah scholar, knew the psak halacha, the real psak halacha. We can't accept Amalek as converts. And therefore your conversion is not valid. And therefore there was a death penalty for what you did. We see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to clean the filth that snuck into the holiness, he has endless amount of ways to do so. Endless amount of ways to do so. So when a person is publicizing Torah and sees that he or she is having obstacles in the way. She just donated a substantial amount of money, but all of a sudden she sees there's some difficulties right or left and she's not sure. Or he just donated a substantial amount of money to publicize Torah, but they're not sure if there's going to be any results out of it. They're not seeing any banners in the middle of a highway saying their name and congratulating them for being a donor. They're saying, maybe I shouldn't have donated that much. Listen, if the Satan was willing to invest decades into building Doeg the Amalek, which the Torah hints to who he is by calling him Doeg Adomi, Doeg the Edomite. It was because where he lived, but it's also a hint where he's really from. The Edomite, he was living there because he was from there. Edom is Amalek. That's where Amalek comes from. Amalek comes from Edom. Esav, he's the forefather of Edom. One of his sons, Eliphaz, had a son through incest, and his son was Amalek. When Edom joined forces with Ishmael, that's when Amalek came. And that's what Abarbanel says. When Edom joins forces with Amalek, when Edom joins forces with Ishmael, Amalek is created. See, here when a person sees, wow, this Satan, look how much he invested into just killing a few tzaddikim. Why? To lower the amount of Torah. To lower the amount of Kedusha in the world. He invested decades of his life. He invested decades of literally people's life. Why? Just to lower the amount of Torah. Because he knows, if there is Torah, that is the arrows of death to Amalek and to the Satan himself. So if you're having all types of doubts and difficulties after you've publicized Torah, after you've done good things, or even on the way to doing good things, do not let up for even a moment. In fact, if you really are a servant of Hashem, double down, because you know the Satan doesn't want it, because that's exactly the potion that will destroy him. The more you're willing to be the real suffering servant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the more you're going to see results. Where ultimately the fruits of your blessings, the fruits of your prayers, the fruits of your learning, the fruits of all of your efforts are going to manifest in literally creating entire communities, entire families, entire cities of holiness, all glorifying HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. Now, of course, in order for us to teach something, we have to do it. And that's why after doing that Siyum event to protect and bring protection to Am Yisrael in the north, just a few months ago, we realized that Hashem brought protection to Am Yisrael and is protecting Am Yisrael. But the war is not over. And that's why this time, for this campaign and for this holiday season, we decided that we're going to do 2 events, 2 Shases. Many more people to help. Over 10,000 people. Hundreds of widows and orphans. A much bigger weapon against the Satan. And just as big as the weapon against the Satan, such is the fight from the Satan. The obstacles, the difficulties are beyond anything you could possibly imagine. But I thank you for tuning in, for learning with me, because these shiurim are what keeps me sane. Keeps me sane. You learn, you connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu has enough mercy on us that He literally gives you the shiur that not only the public needs, that you need. You need to learn. You need to see a little bit of the secrets behind the veil that is over all of our eyes, to show you that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching and He's not letting you go. Thank you very much for learning with me. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless each and every single one of us, especially those that support the kiruv that we do, the Torah that we do, the chesed that we do, that have supported in the past and are supporting in the present. And may HaKadosh Baruch Hu fulfill every one of their blessings many folds more than what they could possibly imagine. Where the more they sacrifice and make an effort to help us publicize HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, publicize the Torah, the more magnified their blessings are going to be by 1,000-fold. I can assure you that nobody is going to have their prayers unanswered if they've truly sacrificed everything they can to help us publicize HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name and help His children. Anyone that wants to donate can follow the links that are going to be in the description. You can go to the website, it's in WhatsApp groups, it's everywhere. And I believe by the next day or two, the simple domain for it is going to be simply 4 letters, bhrh.org. For now, it's just a longer domain. But either way, it may work for some of you guys with just bhrh.org or bhyk.org. But for some people, that short domain doesn't work yet, so you'll have to use the longer domain. But again, I recommend for everyone to truly consider being loyal messengers of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no matter the suffering that is part of it. Because if you're suffering, it's simply a sign that what you're doing is destroying the enemy. And that's a good thing. Kol tuv, b'chava alacha, b'chava v'aslacha, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we will win the war against Amalek.